All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order. The Town of Southbridge, a joint education human services subcommittee / town council meeting. Veterans Conference Room, Wednesday, May 31st, 2023 at 6 p.m. The meeting is being recorded, audio and video. Agenda item number 1, call to order. Agenda item number 2 is roll call. Councilor Marchetti.
Present.
Councilor Ryan. Here. Citizen Member Provost.
Here.
Citizen Member Ortiz.
Present.
And Councilor Montigny is here for 1. No Jackie. Okay. Agenda item number 3, discuss and review the town manager's recommendation to reappoint Theodore Bartlett to the Council of Aging for a 3-year term effective July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2026, state ethics and good standing. Entertain a motion to town council to recommend approval.
So moved.
Second.
Got Ortiz, Provost. Okay. Discussion.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is there, I'm not familiar, is there a number of terms you can have on the boards?
To my knowledge, that only goes into play for elected positions.
Okay. I wasn't sure, because he's just been on for a long time.
Yeah. Well,
So,
God bless him,
just-
but yes.
Yeah, no, just asking the question.
Yeah. Councilor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, there are some committee members or boards that you can only do so many terms before you're done. But it's all based on the bylaws. If your bylaw doesn't show it in there or anything in the charter, then you're fine.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Anybody else? Councilor Marchetti?
Just curious, what does Council on Aging, what do they do?
We meet quarterly, and they oversee, well, they don't oversee, they give guidelines and recommendations to the director. Pretty much.
Guidelines.
Some of the things we talk about are different activity choices where we can advertise our calendar and things like that. Pretty much the last few months, that's what it's been.
Okay. Because some of the things on the website, I thought Recreation handled all that. So is Recreation and Council on Aging?
No, I program for seniors, he programs for other people.
Pickleball and...
Yep, pickleball, we have a senior center activity that is pickleball, they're all seniors. And then there's a group that meets at the senior center on Saturdays, they rent the hall, they're younger than 60. So they don't partake in the senior center part.
Okay.
Yep.
Painting class,
What?
different things that you're providing, exercise program, rain games.
Yes,
These are
right.
all
Those are all for
Council on
seniors.
Aging.
Mhm.
Yeah. And this is a regular committee?
It's a board that they don't really do much other in the day-to-day running of things. They basically,
Just
you know,
advise you?
they advise me.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not even, no. But, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
just curious.
yep,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Yes, and thank you. Like most boards in town that aren't subcommittees and stuff, it's all advisory. So thanks to all the people that run both your boards and the two of you for everything. So is there any other discussion? Mr. Shenya?
If you look on the website, it'll tell you what the mission of the Council on Aging is. You know, what their mission is, and it's the mission of the Southbridge Council on Aging Board of Directors is to link need with services and to promote wellness programs that educate and empower senior citizens to maintain their quality of life. The additional mission is to raise community consciousness concerning the service, programming, and activities that are offered at the Casa One Senior Center.
Awesome. All right. Anybody else? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present, 4-0 for Ted Bartlett. All right, agenda item number 4, discuss and review a library transfer request for $68 from account number 001610-573000 dues and subscriptions to account number 001610-571000 mileage to cover a training opportunity with an in-person component. Entertain a motion to town council to recommend approval of this transfer.
So. Second.
Okay, Ortiz. All right. Margaret, did you want to say anything, or I mean, it's self-explanatory. Yeah.
Yeah.
End of the year cleanup with just a little bit of extra mileage.
Well, there's just been such increase in costs for everything. I think
Yep.
that's what we're suffering from, and that's why there have been 2 transfers this year as
Yep.
opposed to in the past. We don't usually.
But it's good to see more training too. After COVID, people are getting back into conferences and trainings and stuff.
Yeah,
That's
most of our
great.
training, though, just so you know, doesn't involve a cost because
Uh-huh.
it's done by webinar and recorded and that type of thing, or we participate in a Zoom conference. So there isn't any. So this is why this is such an exception, because it was an in-person component that we didn't expect.
Okay.
But it was a great opportunity for that staff member to be able to take up. So we're happy to be
Fantastic.
able to do it. And it is only money moved within our budget.
Right. No extra money.
No
Gotcha.
extra money.
Anybody else for discussion? Councilor Marquetti.
Just curious what type of training opportunity?
So it's there are 4 courses to qualify in what's called basic library techniques, and this was one of the 4 courses, and there are like many components to each course. So this started before COVID, and then COVID hit, and that just threw everything. So it's been going on for about 5 years actually. But I'm really happy that the person was willing to pursue it. So what it does is, if somebody wanted to run a library of in a community of under 10,000 people, this would be the qualification that they would need to do it. So it's sort of, instead of having a master's in library science, which you would need for a larger library such as Southbridge, this would allow you to work in a smaller community. So it's nice to have the professional development opportunity and to have this qualification for another person and staff.
Okay.
Hopefully they're not going to leave.
All set? Thank you. All right. No other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Agenda item number 5 is discuss review community center transfer request for $37 from account number 001549-543000 M&I building to account number 001549-523000 water and sewer to cover a water sewer bill. Entertain a motion to town council to recommend approval of this transfer.
So moved. Second.
All right.
Nothing to say.
No, I understand. It's just the water
The water
sewer
sewer bill was, a little bit
Yep.
more than we had left, so.
seems to be a theme this year. Any other discussion? Councilor Marquetti?
So even, I think I've asked this before, just to bring me up to date, even though we own the building, we still have to pay water and sewer bill.
Oh, yeah, and it's a lot.
Yeah, I feel your pain there, but that is the way I've been understanding it. Did Councilor Adams?
Yeah, I'll pass on. to Mark.
Okay.
It's in all departments as
Yeah.
well.
Yes.
So
Yes, it
it's
is.
unilateral.
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you.
Councilor Adams?
So I gotta say something, before you guys vote on this, obviously I'm in favor of getting the money transferred over. Yet again, we bring somebody here at 6 o'clock at night for $37.
Exactly.
And for $68, again, waste of time. Let the town manager make the decision, monthly updates to the town council on any type of transfers. I'll bring that policy and ask the town council next year, fiscal year, to vote on it. This is again, waste of people's time. Thank you. That's all I've got. Thank you, Mr. Chair, appreciate it.
Thank you. At least bi-weekly like the council meetings, but gotcha. Anybody else?
Well, I disagree.
Well, that's not on the agenda right now anyway, so let's just move forward with the $37, I'd say. Anybody else have anything to say about the
Well, that wasn't on the agenda
$37?
either, but you allowed him to speak about it.
You were the one that brought it up. And then he talked about the
I brought up
transfers.
the bill. He
We're gonna
brought
move
up
on.
the bill.
If you have a problem with the $37 transfer to pay the bill to
That's
the,
not the issue here. The issue is he brought up something that is not on the agenda, and when I tried to respond to it, you called me, basically you're saying I'm out of order, trying to respond to something he should have been called out of order on. Correct?
thank you, Counselor Steves. Yeah, we're gonna move forward. Anybody else with any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed?
I couldn't hear Counselor Steves. I know he likes to talk just a little under his breath.
Did you abstain?
I would like to hear him.
Did you abstain?
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay, thank you. 5-0. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Agenda item number 6, discuss and review a proposed senior exercise program to take place 3 times per week at the Casabon Center to be paid from the state formula grant. Entertain a motion to town council to recommend approval and authorize the town manager to sign related documentation.
So moved.
Second. Okay, we got Brian and Provost. Okay, would you like to say
I'm up
anything?
again.
Yeah.
So this is the same exercise program we've had going for 17 years. Same teachers, same program. It's going very well. We get between 15 and 20 people for every class. It's paid, like it says, out of the formula grant, which has already been approved for, last year it was approved for 10 years. They did the contract differently, so it's a 10-year contract. So that's why I'm bringing it forward early, mainly because I'm retiring and I just didn't want it to fall through the cracks, so she'll be able to get paid. And that's pretty much it.
Okay. Yes, and congratulations on your retirement
Thank
plan.
you, thank you.
Does anybody have any discussion for that? Councilor Marquetti.
Thank you. Do we always do a 10-year contract?
No, it's a new thing that the state did last year, because it really hasn't changed. And it's an automatic grant, we don't apply for it, it's just from the state, when the state does their budget, the Massachusetts Council on Aging and Office of Elder Affairs gets the money and they disperse it to the towns based on the number of seniors in their town.
So the
So it's
grant,
an automatic thing.
so the grant doesn't necessarily have to go for exercise, it could go for anything, or?
Well, no, there are guidelines that we use it for. That's part of what we use it for. We get $31,000 in our grant. It's $12 per elder. Unless that goes up this year, we're hoping, but it hasn't yet. So we're still looking at $12 per elder.
I was just wondering why it was tied into the exercise program. That's-
Well, that's just how we pay for the exercise program.
Okay.
It's part of the grant that we use, what we use it for.
Thank you.
And
Anybody?
the only, excuse me,
You're
one
good?
more thing.
Thank
The
you.
only reason
Yes.
I bring the exercise program forward, where I don't necessarily bring other things that we use the grant for forward, is because it's a larger amount of money and it is a contract, because we make a contract with her for 46 weeks for the year.
All right, thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Any other discussion? All right. Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present. Agenda item number 7, discuss and review service contract with Solitude Lake Management for the remainder of FY23 and entertain a motion of town council to recommend acceptance and authorize the town manager to sign related documentation.
So moved.
Second. Brian Provost. Okay. Is there any discussion? Councilor Marquetti.
Thank you. So I did send an email out asking about what the senior center pie is.
Yes.
And just wondering.
Did that get explained? Okay, so I sent it back over to Gus, because he reached out, Councilor Gus. So essentially that was a typo on their end. My assumption is because the rec department fell under the senior center, community center wing when it was part-time, that's who was paying the bills. So they had a contract with essentially the community center, sometimes referred to as the senior center. So I think that's how they had the senior center pond. They've been the same one servicing the reservoir for about 5 years from what I could see, so probably even longer than that, but that's what I was able to obtain. I reached out to them and let them know if they could change all the stuff to be represented to the recreation department now, because that's who they'll be dealing with, and to name it Reservoir 1 because that's the correct name for it. So typo on their end, they sent an updated contract to me about 2 hours after I reached out.
So, if I can continue.
Yes, please.
So Reservoir 1, why are we treating that herbicide in algae control? We don't really use it anymore. It used to be used as a place for swimming,
Yep.
but I don't think we use it for swimming. Haven't used it for swimming for what, maybe 10 years? So why are we continuing to treat that?
I have heard possibilities of potentially using it for fishing, but aside from more immediate, if I had a magic wand, I would love to have that place done over. So trying to keep it in the best condition that we can, I think is optimal for the town.
Because I know a lot of residents were complaining about Henry Street Field. There was like a tick
Yep.
infestation, Carpenter Pond, Henry Street Field. Wouldn't that be used, wouldn't that be a better use for it down there, since that's where the people are going? That's what we're working on, we're working on Henry Street Field. People said their dogs got infested, their kids got infested. with ticks and.
Okay, the tick thing has been somewhat sorted out. The health department was able to step in and work because DPW doesn't spray for ticks. So, they got a little bit of extra money in there to get a tick spray in there.
Okay.
As far as using the pond down there, I personally had to manage it, kind of had my head in the sand of what my focus is, and that was treating the reservoir since I've got on, so just keeping the contract going.
And then finally, my last question is, I don't see anything on here about any transfer, or just how is this going to be paid for?
Yep, so I have enough money in this budget. They actually cut me some slack. And so their billing was going up this year, hence the new contract. I called them and actually asked with the amount of money that I have left in my budget for lake management, which is $380. They said they wouldn't be able to cover it for that. I said, thank you, hung up the phone. 5 minutes later, they called back and said, you've been a loyal customer, we want to help you out. So they're basically just taking all the money that I have left to shore up this year and then continue service on to next year, which we went to the budget meeting for this. Specialized services is lake treatment, and I just put in for this next budget the amount that they're putting on for this contract, for the next contract.
All right.
Yeah, so it should be covered next budget.
Thank you, Mr. Brunel. Good work. Councilor Ryan?
Just actually following up on Councilor Marquette's question, what would have the bill been otherwise if you had negotiated it down? For the remainder of the year, you said 380.
I can't remember off the top of my head, but just how they budgeted, and especially most of the services that they are charging for. If you look, the permitting and the initial herbicide treatment is the most expensive part, and they do it cyclical. So this time of year is when that service is needed. So we would have been essentially a year behind on services if they didn't do this for us. We could have restarted the contract and asked them to ask you all to up the budget like you did. But we would have been left out on the initial treatment and permitting because that usually happens in the spring.
What was the amount
Oh, the amount that they were.
that it would have been?
It would have been
if not
otherwise.
for what?
Yes, so it would have been $600. I believe so, so 300, and then the initial energy treatment.
$220.
Yeah, if anything, it would have been higher because they have herbicide and algae treatment has $1,150. I'm not sure if that's different than initial herbicide treatment, but yes, they did definitely cut us more. And
Good work.
oh, thank you. I actually did reach out to a few other companies as well, and they came in. One was about $800 more, and then the other one was about a little over $2,000 more. So.
Great job.
Awesome. Ms. Doyle?
Hi, I just have a question. Things like this always come to the Conservation Commission, and is this only coming to you guys because it's a budget issue, or does it come every year?
We don't,
Okay, it would be fine if it did come every year because it's good to have oversight on multiple fronts,
I
I
don't
think.
think in my time we've ever brought it before because it was just a line item in the budget and it's managed through that budget process.
Yeah.
That's what my guess is
Yeah.
because it comes out of my department, and I answer to EHS why it would show up here.
It's because it's a new contract.
Yes.
Okay, so it's just
I
a
mean,
budget
it's
thing.
it's come through the council on several occasions. Just this new phrases.
Just trying to keep it straight.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? 4-1. Marquetti, no. Okay. Agenda item number 8. Discuss and review service contract with Solitude Lake Management for FY24 and entertain a motion of town council to recommend acceptance and authorize the town manager to sign related documentation.
So moved.
Second.
I'll do Ryan and Ortiz on that one. I'm guessing this is just basically you've already said what
Yes.
this is. So
We have, again, specialized services in my budget is $2,050, and now their contract is for $2,050.
great. Mr. Shinier?
Is there a possibility that you look to the water supply company, if that's something they are able to do?
I can definitely reach out to them, but my assumption was if they were a long-standing department that
Because
they would have picked up that service already.
when we were on the recreation committee, the pond was utilized for ice skating only.
Okay.
The Board of Health back in the day, going back well over 10 years ago, wasn't known to allow it to be a pool to be swimmed in. And then the cost involved to convert it and to make it an acceptable place to swim was phenomenal. If you look at the steps alone, the walls that were coming down, they cut the tower out. My question is it really necessary to herbicide that particular body of water when it's not utilized at all other than ice skating? And it hasn't even been used since the pandemic for ice skating or before. So is it something that is really necessary to do for potential fishing that hasn't happened yet? That's all. I mean, it's $2,000 I think the recreation could use better served maybe somewhere else in your programming versus something that maybe the water supply could do for us? Or is it really necessary to do?
If you'd like, I can reach out to water treatment just as early as tomorrow morning. If
Well,
you'd like.
maybe you can ask Steve
But-
if it's really something necessary to be done for a particular body of water that is doing nothing but
Yeah.
sitting up there breathing the mosquitoes.
I mean, again, I would like to see it used, so that's gonna be my next focus, is trying to get the building in ship shape, and, get the repairs from the outside done. So, I would like to be
It would be great.
using it, yeah, absolutely. So, getting it to its full potential, I think, would be important.
Anybody else? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? 4-1, Councilor Marquetti. Okay, agenda item number 9. Discuss and review the letter of support for the Thrive Act and distribute such letters to our state and federal representatives, the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, the Massachusetts Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, Massachusetts Teachers Association, Parents Union of Massachusetts, and any other entities identified by the Town Council requesting their support. Entertain a motion to recommend to Town Council for approval.
So moved.
Ryan and Prose. Okay, so with this item, I did ask for the Thrive Act to be included in the packet. It's not here, but it's very easy to find online. But I'll summarize it quickly for you.
Cheryl.
Oh.
Make copies just in case.
Oh.
Anybody need a copy?
Well, thank you, Councilor.
Yeah, you got it.
Front office. All right, thank you very much.
you.
Section 1 amends the
$10 an
existing law to base the competency determination for high school graduation on mastery of certain skills and knowledge areas like math, science, technology, and English. If students fail to meet these requirements, they're eligible to receive an educational assistance plan. I'm just going to read the summary first. Section 2 outlines the identification of schools for comprehensive support and improvement. It details the formation of a local stakeholder group to create a support and improvement plan for such schools. It also describes different evidence-based interventions to address the school's challenges and establishes a process for schools to exit from the support and improvement status. Extra funding for these schools is also addressed. Section 3, which pertains directly to Southbridge, requires school districts in receivership to develop a transition plan to end receivership and hire a superintendent within 1 year of the Act's effective date. And Section 4 establishes a special commission to study and recommend a more accurate system for assessing students, schools, and school districts. The commission will consider alternative assessment methods and include a broader range of measures beyond standardized test scores. I was going to read the letter for the record, so we didn't have to read it on Monday night, but did you have a question, Councilor Marquetti?
Well, I was just gonna go section by section.
Okay, well, let me just read the letter then,
Okay.
and then we can do that. All right, so it says, on behalf of the Southbridge Town Council, we write to express our support for the Thrive Act currently under consideration at the state level. The provisions outlined in this act resonate deeply with the educational needs and realities of our community, making it an essential legislative step in our pursuit of a robust and effective educational system. Southbridge, along with our sister cities Holyoke and Lawrence, is presently navigating the challenges posed by school receivership. This process, while well-intended, has constrained our ability to meet the unique educational needs of our diverse student population. With the passing of the Thrive Act, we believe Southbridge and other similarly affected towns stand to gain significantly in their ability to retake the reins of their educational trajectory. The Thrive Act emphasizes the local stakeholder group's involvement and introduces a novel support and improvement plan development strategy. We are particularly enthused by the provisions of Section 1J, which advocates for the formation of a local stakeholder group and mandates their involvement in the development of an improvement plan. This provision ensures that those closest to the issues at hand have a voice in the resolution process. Moreover, the inclusion of a wide array of stakeholders, including educators, parents, students, and community representatives, promises a balanced and comprehensive approach to understanding and resolving our school's challenges. This diverse composition ensures that the voices of Southbridge, whose educational experiences and insights are invaluable, are not only heard but also integral to the improvement process. Section 3 of the Act provides a clear pathway for districts like ours to transition out of receivership and regain control of our education system. This much-needed course of action provides us with a firm foundation to regain the reins of our school system while also offering valuable state resources to facilitate this critical transition. While we acknowledge the necessity of receivership for schools in our current circumstances, we believe that the path to educational excellence lies in communities regaining control over their educational destinies. As such, we are fervently hopeful that the transformative potential of the Thrive Act. In this light, we respectfully urge your support for the Thrive Act. Together we can redefine and enhance our education systems, creating a brighter, more inclusive future for our children and our communities. Let us form a united front and work to end receivership across Southbridge, Holyoke, and Lawrence, fostering a state where each community takes pride in the strength and effectiveness of its school system. Thank you for your time and consideration. We look forward to your support in this crucial matter. We can go section by section, but just to kind of throw out there, I'm not the biggest fan of the entire act itself, but in the situation we are in, there is clear, definitive language that says that if passed, you need to be out of receivership within a year, which is something I'm extremely interested in, and I think it is the most paramount issue that's our town and our community is facing, and it bleeds into many other different problems around town that we are still in receivership. So I will support the Thrive Act, but if anybody has any discussion, would you like to go first, Councilor Marquez, or would you like to defer?
I'll yield to Jackie and then I'll speak.
Okay. Councilor Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I just want to say thank you for the letter. I have gone through the Thrive Act, and I'm a lot more supportive of the entire Thrive Act. It's something that needs to be done. The way education has been done in Massachusetts for the last couple of decades has been backwards. This failed teach the test system has bred failure into the system. It has not worked. Education is meant to be there to enrich the whole child and to help them get the tools they need to meet their educational potential. And that's what this does. It allows for the metrics to be there to determine whether or not systems are doing good, whether or not we're meeting goals, but it doesn't bar children from being able to achieve excellence with really bad artificial limits on their ability to move up to grades and graduate. So that's important. What it's doing with receivership is also really important because it forces everybody to the table to come up with a plan. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. You have a year to come up with a plan. That's what we need. We need that pressure to come down from the state and say, you guys have to work collaboratively instead of this top-down approach the state's been doing. So I fully support the Thrive Act and getting it passed. I want to thank Councilor Rivas for actually bringing up this discussion and recommending it be brought here because it needed to happen. So thank you, Councilor. So yeah, I will support the letter, and I think you did a good job in writing the letter. I think this is a great step forward for our community.
Thank you, Councilor Ryan. I hear your concern about teaching to the test. I completely agree with you with that. The language in here is so broad. I get worried that teaching to the test is so far on one side that we're going to fall so far to the other side that we're not going to provide good education. And I wish there was something more in the middle that this outlined, but teaching to the MCAS test has been proven, just like receivership, to not work in educating students. So thank you for your comments. Councilor Marquez.
Thank you. I'll just go section by section, the questions that I had. First of all, section 1, there's no info on what the striked words were. It just says we are striking some words. So I'm going to presume that this is replacing MCAS. And I really don't know if there's anybody here that can even answer our questions, but I'm just going to ask them anyway. Fail to satisfy requirements, determined to be at risk. If the students fail to satisfy requirements or are determined to be at risk, we're eligible to receive educational assistance plan designed within the confines of our foundation budget. So does that mean we're going to get additional funds besides what we receive, or are we going to have to divert funds from our regular foundation budget to this?
Yeah, and again, nobody here is an expert on this Thrive Act, but that's part of the concerns that I share, is that if this actually works out, it can get kind of pricey. Who's going to pay for it? Are they expecting, like us, we have to pay $250,000 for a superintendent we didn't hire? Is this going to be something like that? I mean, it's unclear, and that's part of what I don't like, but I still support the act. I don't know if anybody else has an answer to that question about the funding, but really it's just it's a bill being proposed, so it's
Well,
not.
I guess we're just going to discuss it.
Yeah, okay, you can continue.
So then, the plan that comes forward, parents and students cannot contest any proposed plan, according to this first section. That's what I'm reading. Section 2, Commissioner to identify schools. No more than 5% of all schools statewide shall be designated a comprehensive support and improvement school at any one time. So does that mean that they're going to go statewide and only 5%? So what is the chance that Southbridge will be able to participate in this if it's only 5%?
And that is another thing on my list of pros and cons.
Okay.
But I would imagine, since we're one of the only 3 districts, in receivership, I would hope that we're part of that 5%.
All right.
It would kind of throw this whole thing off if we weren't.
I mean, there are
involved.
roughly 300 school districts,
Right.
so we're 3 is 1%.
Yeah.
So
Well, we gotta be in
we're fine.
Yeah.
We're in that number.
Within 30 days of a school being designated as in need of comprehensive support and improvement, superintendent shall convene local stakeholder group of 11 individuals. The individuals would be one superintendent, I'm going to presume that would be the receiver, one school committee member, appointed by the school committee, one union president or person, one administrator chosen by the receiver, 2 teachers or support chosen by the receiver, one parent. If there is no parent group, and I'm not aware that there is one, that parent would be chosen by the receiver, one high school student chosen by the receiver, one education or school services chosen by the group, one community organization chosen by the group, and one individual who has shown evidence of evidence-based program, who has worked with an evidence-based program, that would be chosen by the group. The stakeholder group will develop and support an improvement plan submitted to the school committee 45 days. School committee at this point is the receiver, correct? So
For
would
us, correct.
Would they be presenting it to the receiver or the school?
No, it would
committee?
go back to the school committee if it's directly laid out, because this would be moving towards the school committee getting power.
Right.
So it would be that report and information would be given to the school committee as part of the transference of power.
So their improvement plan would Roman numeral 1, research, identify, and analyze root causes of school challenges. Does anybody know what the root causes are? Or?
Well, that's
Well,
part
We've
of
got
it.
a lot.
Counselor Adams.
I'm assuming school is gonna be, it's all case by case scenario, so, well, the whole purpose of it, no, it's a good question. You know, they took over, the state took over in 2015, 16, based on certain criteria that they did not see, that teacher turnover, principal turnover, graduation rates, MCAS scores, stuff like that, so there's gotta be, those are the roots that they're saying.
All right. Roman number 2.
I think that's the same reason why we're
Roman
asking
numeral
the state
2,
to leave too.
examine adequacy of resources and equity in the distribution of resources. Roman numeral number 3, identify and catalog school strengths and assets. The stakeholder group would also submit a final draft to the school committee, including guiding vision of learning for the school, goals and objectives, description of evidence-based programs. Could you explain, can anybody explain what evidence-based programs are?
Counselor Adams.
So, I've only learned this about this because of the Student Opportunity Act. And the reason why they're getting $840,000 is they have to prove they have a Student Opportunity Act plan. I'm assuming that's the type of plan would have to be there as well. Or are they getting the extra need, language barriers, compliances for mental health, stuff like that? There's gotta be, and by the way, Student Opportunity Act also goes in there, teacher salaries, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, what I read is the evidence-based program is to promote bilingualism, biliteracy, cross-cultured competence. It would reduce the class size, small group instruction, one-on-one tutoring, increase opportunity for common planning time for teachers, implementation of community schools and hub schools, or other models or strategies for expansion, social and wraparound services. Additional hiring, increased compensation, strategic deployment of personnel, improved professionalism, use effective curriculum that are culturally responsive.
I think Counselor Marquetti, I think Counselor Rivas had the answer to one of your questions, if
Okay.
you don't mind. Yep.
Yeah, so in the DESE frameworks, it outlines what evidence-based programs, what culturally responsive programs would look like. It provides a rubric for all of those different metrics that they're asking for. And so that would be sort of the guideline that the stakeholder group would utilize to do that.
No, so, if you don't mind me,
Counselor Adams.
Chair. So I'm looking over the Southbridge's Student Opportunity Act, a 3-year plan, close that gap. District will continue to implement a positive behavior intervention, standards based on English language arts curriculum, instructions programs. Talks about first language, not English students, students with disabilities, low income, economically disadvantaged students, high needs students, from find any student who is economically disadvantaged as a disability or as an English learner, former English learner, stuff like that. So it sounds like it's all based off the same stuff that they have a Student Opportunity Act for.
Okay,
Okay.
if I can continue.
Yeah.
Any other program determined to be evidence-based by the group that addresses root causes. And then they would present their plan to the school committee. A final plan would require a public hearing. The receiver can make changes to the plan before stakeholders begin. Actually, the school committee can make changes to the plan, but I'm going to presume because we have a receiver and not a school committee, it's going to be the receiver who makes changes to the plan. Before they start, the state is to provide an estimate of our Chapter 78 and available funds in excess of Chapter 70 to support the final plan. So I'm going to be looking forward to them providing us, if we go with this, an estimate of how much we're going to get in aid to implement this.
Exactly.
And then we will support the plan as in effect. The plan will be in effect for 4 years, to be reviewed annually by the superintendent. We'll continue an additional 4 years if they don't think it's working. And then replacing receivership with support plan. Section 3 is the receivership, and I think that's the crux of this whole Thrive Act, is that we want to get rid of receivership. School committee shall develop a transition plan for ending receivership and hiring a superintendent. Transition plan shall be implemented and receivership will end within 1 year of effective date of this act. Do we know when this act is going to be voted on? Do we know? Do we know how far along they are? with
It's still in the subcommittee process.
Yeah.
So it could be a year, 2 years, or longer before.
It's not voted on by the end of the year, it's off the books.
Okay. So we don't know.
It has to be the end of the legislative session.
And just a point of clarification to Councilor Marquetti, in that section, that whole section 2, where it's talking about schools in need of comprehensive help, that doesn't just mean the 3 schools in receivership. If you're talking about 300 and then 5% turns into 15 schools, there could be other schools that, yes, maybe they're lining them up to try to get to receivership, but I know you keep going back and forth with school committee or receiver or superintendent, but not everybody that takes part in section 2 is going to be in receivership. I think
Okay.
we're unique And your concerns are correct. I just, they're outlining it that way because there's 12 other schools in that 5% that aren't in receivership.
All right.
But you can continue, please.
All right, section 4, special commission. The requirement of every student succeeds Act of 2015. Alternate assessment and accountability system. The commission will consider work samples, projected projects and portfolios, performance assessment strategies for avoiding racial and ethnic biases, recognize strengths of all students. Members of this committee, on page 7, starting on page 7, 8, and 9, quite a big list of people who will be on this commission. A member appointed by the President of the Senate, Speaker of the House, minority leader of the House.
There's many members.
Yeah. It's a very large commission.
Very large, appointed by the
NAACP.
Massachusetts Association of School Committees, Teachers Association, American Federation of Teachers, Association of School Superintendents, Massachusetts Education Justice Alliance, one member appointed by the NAACP, one member who shall be appointed by the Massachusetts Immigrant and Refugee Advocacy, one member who will be appointed by Multicultural Education Training and Advocacy, one member who shall be appointed by the Massachusetts Consortium for Innovative Education Assessment, one member appointed by the Black Educators Alliance of Massachusetts, one member shall be appointed by the Massachusetts Asian American Educators Association, the Gaston Institute for Latino Community Development and Public Policy, one member who shall be appointed by the Massachusetts Advocates for Children, Center for Law and Education, Center for Anti-Racist Research, student representative on the State Board of Education, one member who should be appointed by the Rural Policy Advisory Commission, one member appointed by GLSEN, which I'm not sure what that is. And
Gay
one member-
Gay and Lesbian Organization.
Okay, thank you. One member who shall be a researcher from a public university with expertise in the area of assessment, selected jointly by the members of the commission. So, one thing that I did have a question about was, they want the 11-member group in town here to look at community schools. And I was curious what a community school is. Public schools that provide services and support that fit each neighborhood needs, created and run by people who know our children best. Provides free healthy meals, healthcare, tutoring, mental health counseling, other tailored services. The only example of a community school that I could find was Gardner Pilot Academy, Boston Public School. Now, they are part of the Boston Public School system, but their only difference is that they are totally independent, and they basically ended the union in that school. Now, I'm not saying I'm for unions, I'm not saying I'm against union, I just like to call it how I see it, and that's how I see this. Basically, the Boston Public School wanted to end the union in the schools, and so that's why they started this community school. The hub school I think is very similar to a community school, anti-racist system and support, anti-racist adults and leadership, eliminate opportunity and achievement gap, pedagogy, which I don't even know what that meant, understanding students' needs and backgrounds, honor those cultural identities. So that's basically, I went through this entire Thrive Act, and I wrote down some of my questions. No one's here to really answer them. Hopefully somebody will be at the town council. Don't really want to go through this whole thing again, but these are my concerns about this Thrive Act. I realize that the one thing you want to focus in on is ending receivership, but there's a lot more to this Thrive Act than just ending receivership. It looks like a very expensive replacement for receivership, but that's just my opinion. If we did something like this, it's going to cost the town a lot more money. Believe me, I would like to end receivership as well, just not sure that this is the way to go, but that's all. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Councilor Mercury. I share the same concern about the price, and you'd like to think it'd come from the state, but sometimes we just get stuck with the bill, but I'd like to give Councilor Rivas the opportunity to maybe take a stab at some of her concerns.
No problem.
So just talking a little bit about, special commission, and again, without talking to the people that put this together, and just from my interpretation, thinking about the schools that have been found to be in need of services and put in receivership, looking at the demographics, they're all very similar, right? And so we can all agree on that. So I think the special commission that they're putting together is a broad range of perspectives and organizations to prevent the classification of districts from being so pointed towards specific demographics of students. So that commission takes the place of a small group of people determining, like our school system was determined to be, you know, at a level 5 by a small group of people. This creates a special commission that has a broader scope of representation, so that doesn't happen again. Because it's clear from all of the districts that are in receivership that it is targeting specific communities. And I think what the Thrive Act wants to do is to prevent that from happening again. And then for the stakeholder group to be the local body, right, to make up the local community that would be in charge of monitoring the progress of each district, rather than having a receiver who comes from the outside, having a local group of people. Again, having representation from a broad range of perspectives from our community that would be in charge of monitoring the progress. And then following DESI's guidelines and metrics. Of course, there are concerns about price. There's always concerns when we have legislation. But there's also concerns about the current receivership where we have absolutely no control and the price tag keeps going up. And so, you know, what we want to do is have more local stakeholder control, and that way we would monitor our own progress. And again, it's up to our legislators to advocate for amendments that would provide the funding from the state. That is our legislators' job to do that. As far as the community school model, I've had numerous conversations with our union, and they are in support of a community school model. There are other schools in other states that are community school models that I have visited. And in fact, our SEA, I don't know how long ago, but they applied for a grant for a community school model. And so they are in support of this. It creates a model that our community is supporting our families in sort of like a holistic way, right? Rather than it's just, you're going to the classroom, you're just getting a math book and, you know, good luck to you or whatever. It's really providing a whole approach where we're providing support, and it is a collaborative effort with community organizations, like mental health, you know, like a lot of schools have health clinics. A lot of community schools have sort of like a community closet, a community food pantry where they give food to families that are in need. So there are a lot of different models, and that's really what the basis is. It really doesn't have to do with being a union or non-union, because there are different schools that either have unions or not that have community school models. So.
Yeah, it looks like they want to use a large group of community members to pick up the bottom 15 schools, stop receivership from ever happening again. But how we get there is obviously the great debate. Councilor Lazo?
Tough pill to swallow. Spent years on school committee, in government, and we're going to try and reinvent the wheel again. We're a level 5 school district. I don't know how that happened. We're a level 1 high school, level 3 middle school, and our elementaries were level 2. Maybe they added them all together, made 5. I don't know how they added the state level. I noticed our state rep and our senator are not on the list. They have not bought into this. The minute they put in getting rid of the receivership, everybody's eyes, we all open up and go, that's what we want. And then, like a bureaucratic government up in Boston, they tag a wagon full of stuff. Stuff that I'm not a big believer in. I always thought schools were educational institutions. We become a social service in a lot of ways. I know that when I was on school committee with Jack Jovan, we brought in doctors right into the schools, dentists, we had every kind of service, trying to give students a better way of life, families. We had parent-teacher associations, we had all kinds of outside groups that were in, making it a community school. There were all kinds of things, experiments. The MCAS test came in and it threw an earthquake through school districts. Was I 110% in favor of it? Probably not. But moving forward, this bill is so wide open. Okay, if anybody understands how the state operates, we've already seen them in the past 6 years. And governors change, and so don't houses and senates. This one here is a tough pill to swallow. We're in a position, not in a real good position, let me put it that way, as far as dealing with the Strive Act. We want our school district back. We would like to see a democracy, even if it's heavy oversight from the state or a local group, very noble, let's get 11 people. 7 school committee members can't do it, but we're gonna go get 11 and make it better. It's the quality of people on that board. And right away the state comes in and labels, like they label everything. They labeled Southbridge right into losing, I don't know how many teachers and how many students. And then we turn around and we say, we're gonna have student-teacher ratio, it's gonna be better. How can you get better than 12 to 1? That's what we are right now. 12 or 15 to 1. We are a great student-teacher ratio. Then we're gonna get more money. Money's not the problem. We're spending all our money at the top. Management, at the old Southbridge High. The assistant to the assistant to the assistant. That's what blows up districts. But we got criticized for a revolving door. They've got the revolving door times 2 compared to back in the day when he took us over. So when you look at the whole ball of wax, we're in a position where we have to favor that taking over the school district. But I'm telling you, watch out for the wagon full of stuff that they're gonna put onto the town side. Thank you.
Mr. Shenya?
Off of Council, looking at this, I'm assuming this is all state legislative within the community, 65 people that signed this thing. And I don't see Durant or Fatman's name here. So it concerns me, as a community that's in receivership, why, or I would like maybe somebody to find out on the 5th is, number one, if they support this as it's presented, or if they don't, and their reason either for or against it. Because as a town that's in receivership, it's important to have legislators at the State House representing our town and our needs,
Right.
not just the whole community.
I think we'll get that opportunity after speaking this week with Durant and Fatman. I believe that they will both be in attendance on Monday, so I think you'll get that opportunity and you'll be able to get to the bottom of that concern. Thank you. I see Ms. Doyle in the back.
Oh, I just have a question. Thanks, Mike, for doing all that research, but when you were reading about who in the community group is picking everything, it seems like very heavy on the receiver. And I can see the receiver swaying a lot of things. So if this is supposed to be we're supposed to be getting rid of a receiver, he's not gonna work himself.
So a point of clarification there, it actually doesn't mention the receiver at all in the choices of those things. Councilor Marchetti, I believe, is just going off the fact that the receiver is in control of the superintendent and school committee. The list of that stakeholder group is for the districts that need comprehensive support in the bottom 5%. And only 3 of those schools are in receivership. And it outlines superintendent and school committee at certain outlines in that Thrive Act. it's up to us to determine, or up to the state legislature to determine, is it going to be the receiver that chooses them for the ones that are in receivership? But that's why Section 3 kind of almost supersedes Section 2. Section 2 is for the 12 other schools that are heading in the direction of receivership, and it outlines specifically school committee or superintendent gets to choose those. We're just as confused as you as to who would choose them here.
My other question
Yeah.
is, it mentions a group, like of stakeholders from the community. Is the receiver part of that group? Because it did say that group decides on certain individuals being part of it, and
Yeah, again, the majority
the
of the
receiver have a vote. in
the
that?
majority of the towns that are going to have these groups are not in receivership. So that if that writing doesn't take into account receivership, the part that talks about receivership is extremely small, and it simply says that after 1 year of passing the bill, that it needs to be over. Again, this is for people falling into receivership, but it is a very good concern. We wouldn't. Where would we get anywhere if it was just the receiver
Right.
making all the shots again? But
what
I don't
I'm
think
thinking.
that's. I don't think that's
Okay.
where it's at.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Councilor Rivas.
And actually, some of the sections, do talk about the teachers' union picking their designee, and for the educators that are selected chosen by school educators. So the stakeholders themselves would be selecting the representatives, not necessarily the receiver or the superintendent.
Oh,
Because again, that would defeat the purpose.
Right, that's what I thought,
Stakeholders.
yeah.
And again, like a parent from the local parent organization, I know that at the middle high school, there is a school council that has parents on it. So again, in our case, that could be a group that selects the parent representative. So there are groups in existence that could kind of supplant that. And again, our legislators can make amendments to this. It is in committee right now, so they can add things or kind of suggest language changes so that it is a true representation of stakeholders. Because I do have concerns about, it doesn't mention specific groups, like a parent with a student on an IEP. I would want that stakeholder group to be represented in this group. And so I think there is some tweaking that needs to be done to this piece.
I think it'd be another great question for Representative Durant and Senator Fatman. What kind of amendments would you see that would make you support this if they go ahead and tell us that they don't like it? Mr. Shenier again.
If you look at from number 35 to number 48, you're going to see a majority of the selection process is by the superintendent. In our case, it's superintendent is the receiver. If you look back when they initially gave him all the power, it was reported that he was both the superintendent, he acted as the superintendent and also as the school committee, and the school committee was a token board when they originally first started this. But if you read it, local teachers union, which is, the union, administrators from the school, or maybe a principal chosen by the superintendent, 2 educators, which is chosen by the school educators, a parent from the school chosen by a local parent organization, provided that if the school district does not have a parent organization, it goes on to say, select a parent, the superintendent shall do this. And it goes on. And I'm hoping the amendments address the concerns that are being said here, that maybe when this takes effect, we are going to have a superintendent that's working for Southbridge, not working for the state. So maybe that's all part of the plan as it expands.
Yeah.
But it's a good question.
Yeah, Section 3 seems to give receivership districts a tiny bit of a different path than the ones that are in the comprehensive needs of the Section 2.
It's like they wrote this.
But you're right, it needs to be clear.
It's like they wrote this not considering somebody that's already in receivership.
Right, not enough clarity for those
Correct.
3 districts, that's for sure. Councilor Ryan.
I just want to say these are all really great questions, but if they're Durant and that might not gonna be there, they can answer those questions. I
Right.
think that'd be more useful point of time.
Correct.
To,
Yep.
Yeah.
We have a lot of questions, there's a lot of people interested, I think we should just wait till they come.
Sure. Counselor Steves.
Yeah, a couple of points. First, I think part of the issue that we're having with section 2 is section 2 is not about districts, it's about individual schools. That's the way I read it. It doesn't mention districts, it mentions school this, school that. It's individual schools. Section 3 is districts, ones that help the secret position. And one of the things that to raise the point that Councilor Marquetti brought up earlier about how the Thrive Act will change the competency determination paragraph that you brought up earlier. If you look at the current section of Chapter 69, Section 1DI, it goes into a long description, and the wording is different. And among other things, they talk about the current law says that the determination shall be made including such things as the areas of mathematics, science, technology, history, social science, foreign languages, and English. The change specifically says that some of those other things they may be included, but they have to be included. And personally, I think when it comes to facts like history and foreign languages, they should be included. But the current the phrasing of the act, as it is currently stated, says in the areas of mathematics, sciences, technology, and English. And it stops there. Later it says a district may also include history and social science, foreign languages, and environments. They should be required. Because we have a horrible situation teaching history right now. Also, I'd like to point out that the rest of the current act talks about as measured by the assessment instruments described in another very long section called Section 1I, which is about this freaking long. And that's where they go into what they actually create MCAS to be. The way it's phrased, and the Thrive Act is phrased, it eliminates that reference.
I'm presuming that.
Yeah.
Are you all set? Counselor
For
Steves?
the most part, and also just as a technicality in the letter, I was thinking it would make sense if we specifically refer to the two bills that are the Thrive Act, H 495 and the S, whatever it is. Yes, in the actual letter. And also just a personal pet peeve is invaluable. I hate that word. I'd rather see extremely valuable. Invaluable does not say what it says.
Priceless, right?
Maybe priceless, it'll be fine. But invaluable is a useless word.
Okay, all set?
Yes.
Okay, Counselor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for you, obviously it's a very good letter that you've written up and stuff like that, but a lot of great questions came out of the day. This is what we wanted council of the whole meetings about, to have conversations about this. Unfortunately, that council of the whole turned into, a special town council meeting so we can get some other things quickly voted on to moved along. But maybe this is an opportunity at that point, talk to Senator Fatman, Representative Grant, get their take on it, and bring some of the authors of this legislation up to Southbridge, or we head down there, have a conversation with the authors and say, what's your intent with some of these things?
Right, absolutely.
Maybe it's we readjust fire on that. I'm all about the Thrive Act, but at the same time, if there's a lot of these concerns that I think they're legitimate concerns, but a lot of positive things too, why not get some more of the information flow from those authors?
I think it also could be us who go up to them and ask questions
That's what
too.
I said, yeah, absolutely.
Instead of them, because it might be hard for
Maybe
them to
we
come
go
down.
out to them.
Especially if they're not our district representatives, it might be hard to get them out here, but it might be easier for us to go to them and get a meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, Counselor Marquetti again.
The only thing I wanted just to finish up by saying is that when you want to talk about the root causes of our problems here, and this is just my opinion, I think the root causes is there's no economic opportunities for the students. If you send your kids to school, you want to make sure when they leave school that there's a job waiting for them when they get out of school. And when I look at Southbridge, I see not very many opportunities for them, and that's why I think we need to push more for economic development, not just for businesses to bring jobs here. I know that if I had my kid in school and didn't have any opportunity when he got out, I'd say, why am I sending my kid to school? But that's all. I don't want to belabor it, but that's my opinion. of what the root cause.
The only thing I would say to that, counselor, is I understand your point, but the opposite is also true. Why would a business come here if the schools are not good? They're gonna go, the workforce there is not good, when I can go to another community that has a better educational system. So it's a twofold problem, and I think that's why we gotta tackle both problems simultaneously.
All right.
And Councilor Adams, you have your hand
Just so we can still discuss this on Monday evening. It's a valuable point, it's on both sides. But one thing that I go back to is that MCAS score. When it's a graduation requirement, yet this kid does very well in other areas, but does not do well on the standardized test, you automatically take that away, that opportunity, graduation diploma away from him. That automatically sets that person back in society. So I don't want to belabor this. It's already past 7 o'clock, but thank you.
Okay, so we should get back to the main motion, which is, do we recommend that we send this letter? So clearly, it's going to be heard on June 5th at the special meeting, and council can take care of it there. But does the Education Human Services Subcommittee recommend that we send this letter?
There's already a motion and a second on the floor, Mr. Chairman, to
Yes.
support the
So
letter.
I'm going to do a roll call. All right. Seeing no further discussion, Councilor Ryan,
Yes.
Councilor Marquetti,
No.
Mr. Provost,
Yes.
Mr. Ortiz,
Yes.
Councilor Montigny, yes. 4 yes, 1 no. And we'll take it up for further discussion on Monday night. Agenda item number.
Chair?
Yeah.
Could you forward a copy of that letter to me so I can send it to the school committee?
I'd love to. And did you have your hand up too, Councilor Lazo?
Yeah, just a question, you said it's gonna go to the 5th. If the council has to vote, I thought I had to go to the 12th.
It's a special meeting, not a council of the whole, so
You
it
got
actually
changed.
has voting powers because we're doing the truck that night.
For this legislation?
The Thrive Act is on the 5th as well as the truck. Is that correct? I thought that was the point of the truck.
Just to clarify, because I tried to clarify the truck today, what was the date?
No, my thing is the council of the whole, you're only allowed to speak to
Yeah, they changed it to a
the
special
same
town
particular
council
issue.
meeting.
Right, but it's not.
Which I hear we have state officials coming,
Yes.
We did.
the inside. So, I mean, to vote to approve the letter, done with for the councilors to jump on board, I thought I had to go to a regular meeting, that's all I'm saying.
Well, to my understanding, there is no council of the whole meeting on the 5th. It is a special town council meeting. It's a real
Oh,
council
okay.
meeting.
We had to
It was
readjust
changed.
a motion that had to get out.
Okay,
There's 2 of them that
I mean, so
are.
thank you.
So we had to readjust it, that's
I
all.
believe there are special rules for special meetings.
There's vote, you could vote on a special.
I know, but you can only take up one.
No, that's
Three.
only council of the whole.
I think it's
No,
3.
You can vote at a special meeting, but what I was reading in our book of Robert's Rules of Order, it can only be one issue, even at a special meeting.
Our rules and
I could be wrong,
regulations.
but
I'll
I'm
check
pretty
that out.
sure. Okay.
All right. Agenda
Excuse me,
number.
but
Yes.
Is the meeting Monday night at 6 or 7?
7. There's a PPP meeting at 6 beforehand.
It's the
Yeah.
regular, okay, sorry.
Nope, thank you for good question. All right, so agenda item number 10 is adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed?
You're gonna be opposed to everything, man.
The
Okay.
meeting is adjourned at 7:08.
At least you're consistent.